All around us, every single day, there's a hidden war being fought. And the enemies? They're tiny, often so small we barely notice them. But they carry some of the most devastating diseases in human history. So today, we're going to pull back the curtain and meet these tiny, deadly neighbors.
Okay, let's start with a little pop quiz. What do you think the Black Death, which wiped out millions in the Middle Ages, malaria, which still threatens half the world's population, and the modern threat of Lyme disease, what could they possibly have in common? They seem like they're from completely different worlds, right? But believe it or not, they share a single, sinister origin point.
And the answer is, well, it's as simple as it is unsettling. Every single one of them starts with a bite. Just a tiny puncture from a creature you might not even think twice about. It's just a wild reminder that sometimes the greatest threats really do come in the smallest packages.
And that brings us to the world of medical entomology. It's the scientific field that studies all the insects and arachnids that transmit diseases to us. Honestly, you can think of these scientists as criminal profilers. They're gathering intelligence on these tiny assassins. Because, to defeat an enemy, you first have to understand them inside and out. So here's our game plan for today. We're going to start with public enemy number 1, the mosquitoes. Then we'll dive into some specialist flies, the creepy crawlies that fight us in close quarters, and the silent but deadly arachnid ambushers. And then most importantly, we'll talk about how we can actually fight back. All right, let's just jump right in with the undisputed heavyweight champions of disease transmission, mosquitoes. These guys are found pretty much everywhere, and they're responsible for more human suffering than any other organism on the planet. No contest. To fight them, we've got to know the key players. So here are the 4 main suspects. And check this out. Where they choose to lay their eggs is a total giveaway. The Anopheles, our malaria carrier, is kind of picky. It likes clean, stagnant ponds. But Culex, it actually thrives in gross, polluted drainage water. This isn't just a fun fact. It's a critical clue for public health officials trying to stop them. The clues really do start right from birth. Look at the Anopheles eggs. They're laid one by one, and each one looks like a tiny boat with its own little floats. Now, compare that to Culex, which lays this massive raft of up to 250 eggs all stuck together. It's 2 completely different strategies from the very beginning. And the differences are just as obvious once they hatch. The Anopheles larvae, they just lie flat against the surface of the water to breathe. But Culex and Aedes, they dangle downwards, using this tiny little breathing tube. It's called a siphon, like a snorkel. This right here is the critical tell. If you see a larva without that snorkel, you are looking at Anopheles, the malaria mosquito.
Now for the adult Anopheles, 2 things really give it away. First, it's got these very distinctive spotted wings. And second, its posture. When it lands on you to bite, it doesn't sit flat. It does this weird 45-degree headstand. So if you see that, you're looking at the world's primary carrier for malaria. And here's the one we all know and, well, hate. Culex, the nuisance mosquito. You know that super high-pitched whine in your ear at 3 in the morning? Yeah, that's probably this one. It's got this kind of hunchbacked look, and it just loves breeding in dirty drains and gutters. But don't just write it off as an annoyance. This little pest is a carrier for some really serious diseases like Japanese encephalitis.
And then we have Aedes, also known as the tiger mosquito. With its sharp black and white stripes, it's actually pretty easy to identify. This one is an aggressive biter, and it comes out during the day. And it breeds in artificial water containers right in our own backyards. I'm talking flower pots, old tires, bird baths, you name it. It's the primary spreader for dengue and chikungunya. Now get this, this is an absolutely crucial piece of intelligence. While some other mosquitoes can fly for miles, the Aedes mosquito almost never leaves its neighborhood. Its flight range is just about 100 meters. So what does that mean? It means the mosquito that bites you was almost certainly born in your yard or your immediate neighbor's yard. The threat isn't miles away, it's right there, in that forgotten bucket of rainwater. Okay, so mosquitoes might be the headliners, but they are definitely not the only winged threats out there. Let's turn our attention to a group of specialist flies, and each one of these comes with its own deadly payload.
So let's run through the rap sheet really quick. First, you've got the tiny sandfly. It's a pretty weak flyer, but its bite can transmit the devastating disease Kala-Azar. Then there's the tsetse fly in tropical Africa, the infamous carrier of African sleeping sickness. And what about the common housefly? It doesn't bite, but it's a perfect mechanical vector. Just think of it like a dirty little courier, picking up germs like cholera from garbage and then delivering them right onto your sandwich.
All right, now we're moving even closer to home. These next vectors, they thrive in crowded conditions and have been responsible for some of history's most terrifying epidemics.
First up, the louse. This wingless parasite just loves crowded conditions, spreading diseases like epidemic typhus. And then there's the rat flea. This is an insect that literally changed the world. By carrying the plague from rodents to humans, this tiny, tiny creature unleashed the Black Death and completely reshaped the course of human history.
But not all of our tiny threats are insects. Now we're entering the world of arachnids, the eight-legged ambushers. And unlike the flyers, these creatures don't really hunt you down. No, they're much more patient. They just lie and wait for you to come to them.
Ticks basically come in two main models, hard and soft. Hard ticks have that hard shield on their back, their head is visible, and they'll latch on for one single, long feeding that can last for days. Soft ticks, on the other hand, are more leathery, their head is hidden underneath, and they prefer multiple quick hit-and-run bites. This isn't just about looks. These different feeding styles actually change how they transmit diseases.
So what are these things carrying? Well, ticks are notorious vectors for really debilitating illnesses like Lyme disease and Rocky Mountain spotted fever. But don't forget the mites. The very appropriately named itch mite burrows under your skin to cause scabies, and the tiny larval form of the trombiculid mite can transmit a really dangerous illness called scrub typhus from just a single tiny bite. So, after meeting this whole rogues gallery of vectors, the big question is, what can we actually do? How do we fight back? Well, the good news is, we're not defenseless. Public health experts have a really clear three-part battle plan. It's called integrated vector control, and it's pretty straightforward. Step 1 is source reduction. That means getting rid of stagnant water where mosquitoes breed. Simple. Step 2 is chemical control, using targeted insecticides. And step 3, that's all about personal protection, using bed nets, wearing repellents, and covering up. You really need all three working together to be effective.
And that kind of brings us full circle, doesn't it? From the mosquito to the mite, we've seen it over and over again, how the most significant dangers to our health can be almost invisible, hiding in plain sight all around us.
So I'll just leave you with this final thought. Now that you know how these vectors operate, especially that tiger mosquito that breeds right in your backyard, what's one small thing you'll do differently? Will you finally go empty that bucket of rainwater? Maybe check your window screens? Because in this fight, truly small actions can make a world of difference.